Greetings, greetings, greetings. Assalamu alaikum. We would like to welcome everyone to this special event, this community panel discussion with the candidates that are running for city council person of Ward 9 in the city of Cleveland, Ohio, which is representing the district and the area that Superior Renaissance Community Development Corporation serves. So my name is Brother Corey Muhammad. I am the COO of Superior Renaissance, and I'm honored to serve in that capacity. And we are sponsoring this event to allow the candidates to come and to be interviewed by our great and illustrious interviewer, Player T, of Player T Hollywood in the Hood, Player T Show HollywoodInTheHood.com. All praise is due to Allah. So I'm going to open up. I'd just like to welcome everyone and thank you and invite everyone to learn more about Superior Renaissance, to learn more about what we're doing in this area, in the Superior area from East 105th and Superior to East 125th and Superior, creating a vibrant, thriving, economic, cultural, and historic, and reviving this historic district in this city. So before we start, I am just going to do a quick prayer, and then I will bring on a Player T, and he will carry the show from there. So would everyone please, if you would, rise, stand, or you could stay seated, but we're just going to do a quick prayer, and if you don't mind. So please bow your heads and assume the position that's most comfortable for you. Attention prayer. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the Merciful, Master of the day of judgment in which we now live. Thee alone do we serve, and thine aid do we seek. O Allah, guide us on the straight path, the path of those upon whom thou hast bestowed favors, not the path of those upon whom thy wrath is brought down, nor those who go astray after hearing thy teaching. Ameen. Thank you, brothers and sisters. And at this time, we also, we recently, just a couple days ago, lost a very beautiful, beautiful person who is near and dear to Superior Renaissance, who is near and dear to the city of Cleveland, near and dear to the Nation of Islam, and near and dear to black people in this city. She had a great impact on myself personally. She had a great impact on this city. She had a great impact on the Nation of Islam and Muhammad's Mosque number 18. And she also was a mother, sister, soldier, just a beautiful, beautiful sister. And she also was the wife of our founder and CEO of Superior Renaissance, Minister Rolla Muhammad. And I'm speaking of our beautiful sister, Jacqueline Muhammad. So brothers and sisters, if you would, please, let us please bow our heads and just for a moment of silence for Sister Jacqueline Muhammad. Thank you, brothers and sisters. So Superior Renaissance, again, we want everyone to get involved, come out, help build this corridor, help become a part of this movement. If you would like to donate, you can donate to Cash App, and that is $ Superior Renaissance, $ Superior Renaissance. Also, we want everyone to support this platform, this show, this venue, Player T, the Player T Show, HollywoodInTheHood.com. The Player T Show, HollywoodInTheHood.com. So you can go to the website, PlayerTShow.com, I believe /donate, or if you go to the website, there is a donate button where you can donate. Please support, brothers and sisters. We don't care if it's a penny, nickel, dime, dollar, whatever you can, $100, whatever you can support these wonderful platforms that are serving the needs of our community. So at this time, I'm going to turn the mic over to the host of the PlayerTShow.com, Hollywood in the Hood. Please, brothers and sisters, put your hands together and let's bring him on with a well-deserved round of applause. Player T.
What's up, everybody? Player T, that's me, Hollywood in the Hood. Of course, we're missing a counterpart, but that's okay. I don't know why, First he agreed, I'm talking about the incumbent, he agreed to come on and join us, and then like 10 minutes later, he called back and said he respectfully declined. But that's okay, because we got Tony and we got Alana Bell right here. We get to hear their politics, their agenda, and their vision for this ward, for the city. So we appreciate you, Alana. Appreciate you, Tony. I want to bring them on right now. Mr. Tony Evans Jr. and Miss Alana Bell. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. All right, just to let everybody know, what I came up with is 6 topics of discussion. It's not really a debate, it's more of a panel discussion. I think that's what Kevin might have been worried about, the word debate. So it's going to be a panel discussion, and to that end, we brought up 6 topics. For me personally, we got the Superior Renaissance here, so what I attempted to do honestly was try to align our visions together. So my questions is basically centered around what we've been thinking about in this ward, in this community. So I appreciate you all. I'm going to list the topics, and then we'll get into them. There's no particular order. Economic development is a topic. Safety and protection. Youth development. The need for examples in the community. Land ownership. And community revitalization. So, if you don't mind, I'd like to get started. And basically, we got about an hour, so it's just we discuss it together, and then any questions from the audience, we'll attend to that. Just let it be known, and Miles or DJ will give you a mic or something. All right. I wanted to talk about economic development. That's my first question. So my question to you, I'm gonna pose it to you all, and then give you a chance to answer. What is your mindset and vision for creating opportunities for economic development in the city of Cleveland and Ward 9? So what is your vision in particular, your mindset on economic development?
Well, I believe all things have to have a strong and solid foundation. And one of the things about economic development, especially in our community and our ward, is we need to have financial literacy. You can be the business owner, but you need to know how to do the books. And so this is something that I want to focus on and to create like programs that teach entrepreneurship and the behind the scenes of entrepreneurship. Because me being an entrepreneur, when I went in business for the first time, there were a lot of things that I didn't know about.
What were you in business doing?
Well, I've always been in health and wellness, and so my first business was I opened a smoothie bar inside of a LA Fitness, inside of a LA Fitness. It was called the Smoothie Genius. We focused on, healthy drinks, fruits, fruit bowls, salads, stuff like that. And like when it came down to dealing with the city, I didn't know that I was gonna run into so much opposition and these fees and these fees and those fees. And so I feel like if I'm a council person and I'm looking out for my community and I have entrepreneurs, it's up to me to bring this information to them to let them know the challenges that they're gonna face and how to get ready for those challenges. Then we can start opening up the businesses inside the community, because they will have learned behind the scenes what it means to sustain a business in the hard times, not just the good times. So I feel like that's where I would start, and then from there we can expand. They can expand and open up other locations, but we need a solid foundation.
Do you feel like we can get better in that area, in this ward, this community?
For sure. I canvassed this community. That's how I got all my signatures. And we have some very talented people in this community. And the crazy part about it is we have money. We have money in this community. We're not poor. So we should see better. And we can do better. And that's why I'm here. So if I didn't see the potential in the people in this community, what's the point of me doing what I'm doing? Because I'm going to need the people in this community to make the change.
So if I get it straight, it's your experience as an entrepreneur that'll lead you to want to have those type of things where there's mentorship in economics and entrepreneurship.
For sure. I think in this next cycle of the election, we need to choose someone that has experience. Experience in being an entrepreneur, That way, you know, being at the table, I know what to look for. I know what you're gonna need. I'm gonna know what resources to bring back in order to help you, you know, live out that dream. And I'm gonna be able to do this more effectively is because I've had the experience.
Yeah.
I've lived it.
Yeah.
You know, I've been an entrepreneur and didn't have any money to pay my own bills and had the eviction, you know, notice on the door, and you know, it even led me to sleeping in my car. You know, and people need to understand that, yeah, there's the glitz and the glamour of being an entrepreneur, but there's also the serious side to it too. But I think, like I said, as a council person, having to have dealt with these things, I can also create programs to help you when you fall on those hard times, when you can't pay your light bill. You know, you have somewhere to come to help you get, you know, to that next month, because you work so hard.
Are you aware, and Alana, are you aware that there's groups in the community that's doing that right now? They're
Okay.
having workshops, you know, where they're bringing in people and they're teaching entrepreneurs the ins and outs. Are you aware of that? And are you open to align
Oh,
yourself
for,
with those
for
individuals?
sure. Now, so one thing I realized is there are a lot of programs already set in place that we could be using, you know, to help us. But we don't know about them. A lot of us, a lot of people in the community do not know about these programs that are already in place. So one of the things I want to do, I want to use the programs that we already have in place. If it's not broke, you know, why fix it? And inform the people of what programs are, you know, are present that you need in your life.
Yeah.
And then what programs that are not providing us, you know, the services that we need, we're going to have to come up with a way to, you know, supply that need. We're going to have to create something, you know. I'm a problem solver.
Okay.
I solve problems. I've done it my whole life. You know, I'm a personal trainer. People come to me and they say, Tony, I want to, you know, be in shape. I want to look a certain way. I help people every single day, you know, reach their goals.
Well, there's discipline in that.
Yeah, you have to have discipline.
Well, Alana, I'm gonna pose the same question to you. What is your mindset and vision for creating opportunities for economic development in the city and in this ward in particular, Ward 9?
I have sort of a twofold approach to that and
Okay.
what I see, because I think on the one hand I agree financial literacy and preparing entrepreneurs, business owners, and specifically artists to be able to take care of themselves in the business aspect is really important. But as a community organizer, I know that we cannot, specifically people who live like at or below poverty level as far as their income goes, there's no financial literacy that is going to get them out of that situation. And so for me, when I look at the other approach to that, is how are we contributing to cutting the cost of everyday lives, right? And so part of that is looking at food distribution, resource distribution. City of Hope and Bethany Baptist Church are both having grocery giveaways today. So if you are watching live and you are needing groceries and you live in Ward 9, go see Bethany Baptist Church or City of Hope, but also other resource distribution opportunities. I'm sorry? You can't hear me well? Is this better? Okay, yes.
Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I was saying is the second part of what Tony was saying is that we need to find ways to cut the cost of folks' everyday lives. As a community organizer, I have seen over the years what it looks like for folks when they have the programs and all of those things, but everything is still too expensive for what they make. And so we need to find ways and enhance the ways that already exist that are cutting the cost of folks' everyday lives. So if you live in Ward 9 or in the area or have access to get to it, there are 2 free grocery distributions happening right now. So if you need free produce and things like that, there is City of Hope and Bethany Baptist Church, both along East 105, who are giving away free food. There are other resource distributions that happen throughout the city, specifically in Ward 9, the new Ward 9. But that happens specifically in the Ward 9 that help folks get household cleaning supplies and dishes and towels and all of the things that you need to maintain your home, yourself, your body, and your family that eats up the cost of what folks spend their money on. So if we're able to help folks get food, if we're able to help folks get the household supplies that they need, if we're able to help folks get into these programs that already exist to help pay for utilities and cut costs and things like that, they have more financial freedom in order to actualize like what joy looks like for them.
Okay, well, that's a great answer. When we talk about economic development, we're also talking about business. And we had an incumbent up here talking about a business incubator. But you got people in the community that take issue with that because they don't see any real tangible results from that business incubator. What are your thoughts on a business incubator, and would you be a part of something like that?
Well, yeah, I had recently watched that, and I think it's counterproductive because, I mean, the whole point in helping you open your business and get started is to stay in the ward, not to leave the ward. And I noticed that he talked about, Dave leaving and all these, Rite Aid leaving, and we know why they left, but he never talked about how do we solve it. Like it was just like, okay, well, they left. Okay, well, but what can we do to keep you here? And how do we solve this problem? It has to get solved at some point in time. I mean, nobody in their right mind would set up a business in an area where they're not gonna, make a profit. So how do we solve the problem? And he never, gave anything to that. And so, like I said before, we need somebody that's gonna solve problems, even if it's sometimes outside of the scope of, your job description. And I've been to some city council meetings, and maybe the fire department had an issue. I know it's not your job to be in the fire department, but you are the city council person, Ward 9. Maybe you can suggest or bring to the table some suggestions on how to help the fire department serve the community better, dealing with whatever the problem is at hand. But you need somebody that's gonna lead by being a problem solver and giving solutions to problems that affect all the people that live in Ward 9.
Yeah. So, Alana, I'm gonna pose that same question, the business incubator. And like I was saying, I'm gonna repeat it, there's people in the community that feel like there's no real tangible result. A few people might have benefited, but in all actuality, there's no big buzz about businesses being incubated, created and sustained. So what is your thoughts on that, and how have you been seeing that type of thing where driving economic development to the ward?
Yeah, I think, can you all hear me? Okay. So I think, again, twofold, everything has multiple angles to it. Shout out to Heavy and all the folks that come from CLE who are doing amazing work with the folks who are now taking over ownership and are going to be spearheading the work that happens in Glen Village, specifically with the business incubator. I definitely feel like new leadership and folks who are more experienced in entrepreneurship as opposed to folks who are developers and elected officials taking over that is probably going to yield better results. It's probably going to yield folks who are more intentional and more committed to community, because I know Heavy a little bit, and Heavy is committed to this community specifically. So I think new leadership is definitely one of the ways that we can help shift some things, especially if we are having community conversations and getting input from the people who live here about what kind of businesses they want to see, what the next steps could be after they get through the training and leadership development and all of that fun stuff. But I also feel like this used to be called Superior Renaissance. They're up and down East 105 and St. Clair. Different parts of Ward 9 were called the Gold Coast, and all of these things. There are empty storefronts all through the ward. And I think that there is opportunity for the businesses that get developed at Glen Village to take up space in the ward. So it doesn't have to be a coffee shop that gets developed in Glen Village and then moves out to the suburbs or moves to downtown. I think we can take advantage of the space that we already have here, the interest that we already have here, because you all have a lot of interest around Superior Renaissance. There's a lot of interest up and down 105 about redeveloping and rebuilding the Gold Coast. And the people specifically on St. Clair know what St. Clair used to look like and want to bring that back. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for us to do that work.
Okay. Now, okay. Well, we talk about economic development, and well, your incumbent, he chooses to let everyone know about in upwards of $76 million of economic development he supposedly had brought to the ward, namely the Hitchcock Center for Women. That was a $27 million investment. The Glen Village building, that was a $15 million investment. The Fisher House, that's a $15 million investment. University Hospital, $17 million investment. And then the Sarah J. Harper Foundation was a $2 million investment. What do you got to say to that? Do you think that's beneficial to the community? A women's center, of course. The Glen Village, but what do you got to say about that economic development? And and those funds came from the ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan Act, if anybody didn't know. Matter of fact, a lot of funds in the state come from that and gets divvied out to other funds. So are those funds on your mind? Any available remaining funds? What do you think of that? What do you think of the investment already brought to the community?
Well, as the incumbent says, he writes policy and he legislates for everybody.
Okay.
Not just Ward 9, but I would beg to differ that he's writing policy or legislating for Ward 9 because it's not progressed. It hasn't progressed.
You don't call a women's center progression? You don't call a business incubator progression?
Not when the people leave. Yeah, it's great to start, that business, but what are we doing to keep you here? Because we want to see, we want to have a place to go. Like, if you look in the city of Cleveland, Ohio, you have, certain sections that have, cultural aspects to it. Little Italy, little Africa, little Chinatown, Where's our slice? Where are we at? There's no hub. There's no one place that celebrates our culture. We make up the majority of the population in Cleveland, Ohio, and I think it's very unfair that Cleveland doesn't represent.
Yeah, we got the Moss Museum. We got all that going on.
So, that's what I want to focus on. I want to focus on Ward 9. I'm fighting to be the council person of Ward 9, and that's my focus, is Ward 9. Yes, I will work with, other wards throughout the city to make the city a better place as a whole, because we want everybody to come. We want everybody that lives in the city of Cleveland, Ohio, to feel safe, to want to invest. But I'm the city council person for Ward 9. I'm a community first guy. I'm the community first candidate. And so focusing on Ward 9, we want to focus on, yes, economic development, helping entrepreneurs open their businesses, but we don't want you to leave, we want you to stay. And, we don't have a proper grocery store. You go to all the other wards, they have all these beautiful, lavish, grocery stores, and we don't. And there's something wrong with that. We have money. We can afford, food and stuff like that. Yes, we have to focus on crime, but we got to start somewhere doing better. People look around, and when they see no progress, they don't know to do better. And they got to see the progress first. I canvass these neighborhoods, and so many people have lost hope. They lost hope because the person that is supposed to be bringing them the hope is not doing that. And these projects, they sound great, but they don't improve the life, the neighborhood, the surrounding areas, the beautification. It's not doing any of that. And that's what we're tired of.
Yeah.
You know, you're doing all these great projects for, you know, the outside. But if you're doing all that, when do you have the time to focus on the ward and the people that elected you to do the job for Ward 9?
Alana, you're a woman. The Hitchcock Center for Women and Children, that's not progressive. The Glen Village, the business incubator. I mean, how do you see these things? The Fisher House, do you see this as beneficial in your ward, creating opportunity? Or do you agree with it? Do you have an adversarial vision?
I see both the pros and cons to all of these things. Definitely I found a home in reproductive justice, and so women's rights, women's health, specifically focusing on Black women and girls. That is the work that I've been doing for the past 10 years.
Oh, wow,
So
okay.
I am really, really, really grateful to see something like that happen. I think the caveat to all of that, the $76 million is not, the $76 million that has been spent in Ward 9 on these various buildings is not being spent in a way that is focusing on the people that we want to see here, right? So we are preparing, there are several buildings that have been built and are in progress or process of being put up that are dedicated to elders. There are several buildings that are dedicated to folks who are in crisis of some sort. There are buildings who are that are being dedicated to folks who are in need of mental health assistance, substance abuse issues, assistance with those sort of things, and that is phenomenal. But none of the money has been spent on the people who already are here, and the people that we want to stay here. So we are preparing. We are preparing the neighborhood. We're preparing Ward 9 for people as they age, but we are also concerned about people my age. We are concerned about people younger than me who are leaving and not coming back. And part of the reason that they're leaving and not coming back is because this $76 million looks like gentrification to all of us.
That's construction cost, that's not on operating cost. That's like construction cost.
Yes, this looks like gentrification to a lot of us. So when you look at everything south of Superior Avenue, if you're traveling down East 105, these are shiny new buildings. These are, you see new businesses. You see these apartments that the rest of the people who live in this ward can't afford. You see all of these businesses like that are popping up. And again, most of these businesses that, again, I support, shout out to Comfort CLE and Squash the Beef and all of those things. But what investments are we making in the homes of the people who have been here for generations? What investments are we making in the streets? What investments are we making in the people?
Long-term sustainability.
Yeah, what investments are we making in the people that live here? How are we preparing the people that are from here to stay here? And what are we doing to have conversations and get understanding of the people who left and why they left? I think it's very easy for us to like blame and point fingers and do all of the things and say like, well, they're leaving because of you, but we don't know why. And part of the reason we don't know why is because we have not had those intentional conversations. Again, being a community organizer for 15 years, I know the power not only of door knocking and talking to people directly, but also the power of collecting data. And I think community surveys are one of the ways that we can get some honest feedback from people, not only people who are in Ward 9 and of Ward 9, but people who have left and figure out why they left and what it would take for them to come back. I think the however many millions of dollars that have been spent are phenomenal for the people they serve, but they do not serve all of Ward 9.
Okay, that's fair enough. You mentioned that you've been a data collector in your history. So what has
The data showing you about the disparity between the east and the west sides, and can you speak to that?
So I don't have any data about the disparity between East and West Side, but I do have my own lived experience that supports that. And driving down 90 or driving Route 2 across the bridge and going over there, I think one of the things that I see cleaner streets. We see more well-maintained streets, fewer potholes, more maintained lawns and gardens and things like that, more maintained public spaces. The parks and community gardens and things that exist on the west side are more maintained for two reasons, in my opinion. The first one, that there is more community interest and community activation, and people over here may not be interested because we are not putting the investment as community leaders into these things first. I think we have to set the example and tell people that they deserve nice shit. I'm sorry, that they deserve nice things. We deserve nice things on St. Clair, just like the people on Ashbury and Wade Park deserve nice things, just like the people on West Boulevard deserve nice things. We deserve nice things here too, and it is a learning process. When you are being taught or shown year after year, when your parents have grown up in this neighborhood and they've been taught and shown year after year with the decline of quality in this neighborhood, quality of businesses, quality of parks, quality of public services, that they don't deserve, then it's very easy for them to behave and feel and think and internalize that they don't deserve. Now, if we, as a part of like the Superior Renaissance and the revitalization of the Gold Coast and all of these things, if we as community leaders put that investment and put it in their face, I'm putting this nice thing in this neighborhood for you. I'm putting this here because we deserve parks, we deserve all of these things. It will, I think, get folks more invested and more engaged in the process of what it looks like. I'm sorry, somebody was trying to get in.
I don't gotta look back. I already know what's going on.
Yes. But if we put things in people's faces and let them know, like, I'm putting this here for you. This is not for the show. This is not for a photo op. This is because when you leave and when you get off the bus or when you are driving down the street, you deserve clean air. You deserve green spaces. You deserve quality parks. You deserve spaces that don't have trash or litter or whatever the situation may be. So I think that's one thing, is that we need to lead by example. The second part of that, I think, is that a lot of council people and a lot of organizations on the west side work more collaboratively. These positions, city council, this is not, the position title is not Ward 9 City Council of Cleveland, it is Cleveland City Council. We are taking care of the city together. This is a communal experience. This is what community looks like in real time, not just with the people who live here or the people who organize here, but with the elected officials. It is our responsibility to work with each other to make sure we're using the resources, the money, the connections, the care providers, the like everybody to uplift our neighborhood as a collective. When the districts have been redrawn recently, these ward lines look crazy. And so it's gonna be really hard for us to say, oh, I'm only doing this in Ward 9 and I'm not touching the other wards because that's not my responsibility. This whole city is our responsibility. We are all, I am my sister's keeper just like I am my neighbor's keeper. And it is my responsibility to make sure that I'm working with the people around me to build out the whole city. Now, yes, my concentration and my time and my effort are gonna be more focused on the people of Ward 9, but these resources are for everybody.
Well, you know, Tony, that same question now. You've been ingratiating yourself with the community since you
Migrated here, and it seems like the people are embracing you. What were your thoughts when you seen what could be described as a disparity between the east and the west sides? You being an outsider at the particular time coming in, what was your honest assessment of that and thinking?
Well, I mean, when you go from, whether you live in Texas, the communities where we tend to mostly populate tend to always look the same. So, coming here, I wasn't necessarily shocked. I'm disappointed because, you should have been much more further along. But being an outsider, I see the beauty. I see something different that most people don't see, that maybe have, gotten so disappointed by life here in Cleveland as a whole, they can't see, So it's a new set of eyes. And so when I got here, I saw the empty buildings. I mean, I'm looking for one right now. Because I have all the equipment. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I just, where do I find a building? And one of the things I run into is the lack of information. When I see a property that I want, I go down to the city, you know, there's no information there, or they make it very difficult. And a lot of these properties are already tied up with outside investors. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on that we don't know. So, you know, like I said, I saw the opportunity, you know, and I know that they call us the hood, and that's cool. But there's some beautiful people here, very talented, you know, undiscovered talent here. I mean, I would think myself to be one of those people. And so I look at it from that perspective. So I want to shine a light on this particular area, because this particular area has fallen behind. Like if this is a basketball game, we're down by a lot
So
of
you
points.
believe you have a fresh perspective from coming from the outside?
Oh, no doubt, no doubt.
Alana, a person coming from the outside, they can achieve what we need to achieve in this ward, as in Mr. Tony Evans?
I think anything is possible, but I also think community lies in connection. And how long have you been here?
Well, I've been here since 2018, but what I will say this, no matter how long you've been here, if, you know, you're a people person, if you love people, you're going to connect. A connection is a connection no matter how much time you spent anywhere. I can walk into a room 5 minutes and connect with the whole room, so.
Right. So I think I think a lot of community is based in connection, and a lot of that, there is organic connection that can happen over time, but there's also a type of connection that cannot happen unless you have time invested in people and institutions and organizations and projects and all of these things. And as somebody who's been doing organizing work since probably 2009, I think it's possible for somebody who is not from here to come here. But I also think that there is, at least for me personally, I also think that there's a little bit of, what word do I want to use? I think there's also a little bit of hesitancy that I have as a voter. So not even speaking as a candidate, not speaking as a community organizer, but as a voter, I'm always concerned about folks who are coming into spaces, especially folks that I'm not familiar with, folks that community leaders are not super familiar with, coming in, running for office and saying that they're dedicated to this community, and I have not seen the work. And so I'm not sure what has happened like prior to this campaign or what have you, but yeah, I think it's possible, but I don't think well, let me finish. I'm sorry. I think it's possible for somebody to come in from the outside and definitely lead and all of that fun stuff, but I'm always concerned as a voter about the authenticity of that, right? So what were you doing beforehand? Is this like a career move for you? Is this, have you run for office in other places before and like just coming here for an opportunity? Are you actually invested in the community, or are you invested in the opportunity to be a council person?
What do you have to say to that, Tony?
Well, we can't demonize newcomers, because we want them here too. They're going to be important, and whether you're a newcomer,
They coming. I seen some Mexicans around the corner. They coming.
but whether you're a newcomer or whether you lived here your whole life, it's about what's in your heart. I mean, because, you know, me and you, we could be doing a lot of things, a lot of other things, but we're here. So I'm here now. Life happens, and speaking to political background, you know, I knew at 17 years old I was going to be sitting in somebody's chair debating, fighting to be an elected official.
Okay.
When I was 21, I ran for mayor of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I did really well. I got 20% of the vote with no money, no name, no experience. So I've always known I was going to be here in this chair. So my journey, I mean, of course, people don't know me. They don't know my journey. I can only tell you. But anybody can serve the community, whether you're a newcomer or whether you lived here for a long time. But I would say don't discredit a person from the outside, because change has to come about some way, somehow. Somebody has to create the change, and if nobody's creating the change that's already in office, and nobody has stood up to this person in the past 24 years, and a newcomer comes in, you can't demonize them.
All they do is bring demonize.
All they do is demonize. Well, that brings me to you got something to say to that?
Yeah, I think there's a difference between demonization and curiosity. I think being curious about the motives behind somebody who is fresh to the community, like trying to take a leadership role this big with this much responsibility, being responsible for 23,000 people, 23,000 plus people, is a huge undertaking. Being responsible for the care of not only the people but the institutions, organizations, and culture of this community, I think is also a big thing. One of the things that you said earlier was that there's no home, basically, that there's no culture here, that there's Chinatown and Little Italy and all of that. St. Clair got culture. Superior got culture. 105 got culture. And so, and everybody has their own experience with what that is and how they identify those things. But coming from here, I'm able to identify and articulate what that culture is and what that looks like. And so for me, it is not, oh, how do we create a cultural home for us? I see it. I live it, I experience it, I hear it, I smell it, taste it, feel it, all of those things. And so for me, it's not necessarily a demonization, it is a curiosity. And again, those are my views as a voter, as a candidate. I think anybody is capable of doing anything. Part of the reason I'm running is because I see what St. Clair looks like. I see what 105 looks like. I see what this side of Superior and everything north of that looks like, and I am disappointed and disheartened when I go to Corey Rec and I see equipment older than me, when I go to Glenville Rec and I see computers that are older than my siblings, when I see pools that cannot be used, when I am walking through and grass is uncut or there is litter and broken bottles, drug paraphernalia, all of these things. And these are all fixable things.
Yeah.
These are all easily addressable things, and there are ways to address it without necessarily trying to shift the culture, because the culture is not the problem. It is the care of the neighborhood that is the problem.
I get it. Before we move on to the next topic, you want to respond to that?
Hold on.
Okay, well, that leads us to safety and protection. As you said, it's your responsibility as a policy writer, Cleveland, you write policy for the people that work, live, and
Travel through the city. So safety and protection is at the heart of economic development, because without safety and protection, you lose economic development. So I want to know, Tony, what is your mindset and your vision for the safety and protection of the people of Cleveland and the citizens of Ward 9 especially?
Well, the citizens of Ward 9, we want to police our own community. And I'm all for it. I mean, when I was canvassing, one of the things I noticed that, I would meet, one person knock on the door, and, they would know like 7 people, throughout that street. And I thought about it, I was like, wow, that would be a really good person to use as a resource to, maybe be the help monitor that street, when because we got to get back into knowing each other. There's so much like separation. You should know your neighbor. I mean, I'm not saying get in their business and be nosy, but you should at least know their name, basic stuff. And that's what we've gotten away from. And we, back in the day, we used to know like everybody on the street. And I think that's very important. That's a very important component to add to community policing. And of course, you want to work with your community precinct people. You want to work with them, but
Well, hold on, Tony, because we've had examples of citizens patrolling, but that hasn't really worked out too well recently. I'm not against it, or I'm saying I'm for it, but there's been examples where there's been backbiting, wrangling over available funding, and it's still crime and still violence at an all-time high. So I'm not quite sure if that's a solution, but you feel that is. Why is that?
well, I feel like who better to serve your community to know your community than the people in there. And we're gonna have to learn and change. We're gonna have to change. We're gonna have to change because there are things greater going on outside of just Cleveland, Ohio. You have a president of the United States doing a lot of things which will in turn affect us, but we have to take back our communities by policing ourselves. And there is a way. One thing about it is, you bring an idea to the table and you try it. If it doesn't work, you keep what works, and what doesn't work, you tweak it. We're not saying that this is going to be 100% the first time, but if we just give up, then how are we going to find a solution? There has to be a solution. You can't say that there's no solution. You can take a solution, pick it apart. This works, keep that. This doesn't work. You know that old expression, sometimes you have to kiss a lot of frogs to get to the prince. If you put a person in a position and they don't work out and they're causing more confusion than peace, you get rid of them and you find somebody else. We can't give up. It's like when a program doesn't work, we just say, oh, it didn't work, and that's it. But we still got the problem. Obviously, the police are not necessarily the solution to the problem. So we have to go to what's going to be the best solution, and the best solution is community policing. Know your neighbor. Know the people around you. I'm not saying it's going to be 100%. I'm not saying that everybody's going to welcome you with open arms. But if you can know at least 8 people on that street versus none or 3, that's good. Because you can communicate. If you hear a noise down the street, gunshots going on, you have a network. You got to create a network. One of the things I loved was when I was canvassing and I was down to my last signatures, there was a person in the community, she had numbers. Like she knew, like, oh yeah, go to this person, go to that person. And I thought, that's what we need to go back to. Yeah. We need to go back to knowing each other, not being afraid of each other. House separated amongst itself will not stand. We keep talking about the same things, but we have to have the leadership in order to bring about, these changes in the mindsets. Because you have to use this platform for what it's worth. People are going to listen to Councilman Tony Evans versus just Tony Evans. And so it's about using this position, this seat, to push the needle where it needs to go, even if it's outside the spectrum of your job, But this is the only way we're going to win. We got to stop talking and doing. Man, I'm not a talk guy. I like to do. When I go into the gym, I don't just talk. I don't stand there and talk to the weights. I got to put the work in.
You don't stand there with the phone trying to find the right phone.
Yeah.
Okay. Alana, I want to ask that same question of you. Safety and protection. What is your mindset and your vision for the safety and protection of the people of Cleveland and the citizens of Ward 9 especially?
Yeah, I think in the conversations that we've had, we also did a community survey last November during the election. And so we got a little bit of information from the people in the community about what safety looks like for them. And it's kind of split. So for some people, particularly elders, based on the survey and some of the conversations that we've been having, there are elders who feel more comfortable with more police presence. Which does not feel comfortable for me and does not feel comfortable for many of the people my age, does not feel comfortable for several people, especially folks who live more on the north side of the ward. And then for other folks, less community or less police presence makes them feel safer. I think for me, when I am approaching community safety, I am trying to look at a little bit of everything. I'm trying to look at a little bit of everything and figure out like what middle ground we can come to make everybody feel safe. Because there's no way, like as city council, we are not bosses of the police. We cannot give them orders or instructions or anything like that in a major way. So requesting more police presence in Ward 9 for the elders, for the folks on Ashbury and Wade Park, because it is also typically the folks who live in the higher income side of the ward who are requesting or suggesting or asking for more police presence. That is going to trickle over into the folks who absolutely do not want that. And then also, I think the idea of community policing is great, but I also think that training is a big, big part of that.
Police training, like sensitivity?
So yeah, okay, yes. I didn't know where you was going with that for a second,
Well,
but
you said training, so I'm
yeah.
trying to
So police training, absolutely. I am a huge fan of the consent decree. I'm a huge fan of holding them accountable. I'm a huge fan of the consent decree. I'm a huge fan of holding the police accountable for their behavior. I'm a huge fan of making sure that if we must have police, then we must have police who are trained well and who are not only like educated on various issues, various identities, various experiences of the people that they're serving, but also that we have alternatives. I'm connected with a lot of folks in Columbus who are working on the Columbus Safety Collective, and that is one of the many examples that we see throughout the Midwest, because that is where I'm looking for some of the policy examples, some of the program examples when I'm building out my own campaign plan. But the Columbus Safety Collective is looking at policing alternatives for different calls. So if someone, and we're also working on Tanisha's Law, shout out to the folks who are working on Tanisha's Law. Tanisha Anderson is somebody who was killed by Cleveland police. She was in a mental health crisis and her family had no really other options. So they called police to try to get her assistance with her mental health issue, and she ended up being murdered. And so for me, I think policing alternatives is probably another aspect on top of community policing, but policing alternatives is another aspect. So who do we call that does not have a gun, that does not have batons, that does not have the ego of somebody who feels like they can do whatever they want to whomever they want, to come out and service people who are in need? So servicing mental health issues, servicing folks who are experiencing issues with substance abuse, servicing folks who are in crisis and having trouble with managing their teenagers or managing children. I think there are people who are professionals who do not carry guns, but there are people who are professionals who are equipped, like educationally, mentally, emotionally, to handle all of those things, and not in a way that is lethal, not in a way that puts folks on edge, because a lot of times merely the presence of police is an escalation. Because we know what they have the capacity to do. I've been out in the streets talking about the police since before Tamir Rice died.
What is your main point of concern as far as safety go in the city and in this ward? What is your main?
So one of my main points of concern is gun violence.
Violence?
Yes, gun violence. And so for me, as a responsible,
You say what?
Genocidation. Guns and genocide.
Okay.
yes. And so for me, as a responsible gun owner, I think that there's a multi-layered approach to how we can make gun violence less of a presence in our communities throughout Cleveland. I think Cleveland Peacemakers is an organization that is doing a gun lockbox program or a lockbox giveaway either today or tomorrow, I believe. But providing people with the resources that they need to keep their firearms safe. Some of the stories that I've heard throughout not only my time canvassing, but throughout the years organizing here, there are a lot of teens, especially, who get a hold of their parents' firearms and commit crimes and hurt people and do all of those things because those firearms are not being locked away safely. So providing safety measures, not only in the form of lock boxes, but also in the form of training. There are shootings that happen irresponsibly where it is clear whoever was doing the shooting was either not aiming at a target at all or had no idea how to properly aim at a target because they don't know how to use the gun. So teaching folks how to use guns properly and safety so that when there is an issue of self-defense, because that is the only reason I ever plan to use my firearm is in a case of self-defense. But teaching folks how to use them safely, I think the idea of discipline, practice, and training gives folks a higher sense of responsibility when they have a firearm in their hand.
Well, you got people in the community, namely the Superior Renaissance, that do that. They train women to have self-defense classes. And Tony, what is one of your main points of concern?
I think I agree with her. It would be gun violence because, canvassing. When I look at older people in my community, I'm looking at my grandfather, my grandmother, pretty much in a sense. And it's been a lot of houses I've gone inside of where they've shown me where the bullets, went through the wall, and that just so happened they might have been in the other room. Had they been in the kitchen sitting at the table, they would have been, shot. And so that's a very dangerous thing, and it would alarm anybody. And then, when somebody robs you, of course, they're probably going to rob you at gunpoint. So yeah, gun violence would be a huge focus. Now, I don't expect people to turn in their guns.
$10.
And
Yeah, whoever came up with that, y'all had to come up with a better incentive.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, like a friend of mine, her daughter was shot by a group of guys, and they were targeting the young man that she was just standing on the corner with. And the thing is, he was afraid for his life, because these days, if you don't join the gang, they come after you. Like, you can't refuse anymore. And so, just that incident right there. So we got to come up with a better program or something. Give the kids something else as an incentive to not pick up a gun. Now, I know one thing is a lot of the kids in the community, they like to drive I think it's the four-wheelers and yeah. So I say, give them a park. Find an empty space somewhere, build them a space where they can do that at, and
where they can enjoy themselves, so
yeah.
have less time to be violent.
And so what'll happen is they'll have to spend the money on the bike instead of the gun. You got to redirect where they're putting the money.
Great point. I think you all got a question. There's a question in the audience. Somebody give him a mic, please. We got another mic now.
I'll be Oprah.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Tony.
My name is Wakili Muhammad. I would like to say, before I ask question a few things, the community, it's the police doing a lot of killing in our community. That's right. The police keep getting trained and trained and trained, and they constantly talking about training the police. Yeah. But that's in their nature. What they come in our community for, that's part of genocide. Increase the death rate and decrease the birth rate. Yeah. See, they come in here and kill our men. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because the men is to maintain and protect the household. Yeah. They don't want us to do that. They come in and kill us off. Yeah. Them young brothers riding out here wild watching TV, and they don't have nothing to do. No. They watching these gangster movies and these cowboy movies. They need something to do. We need to show them something. That's why Superior Renaissance is important, and because we trying to clean up our community. We trying to build where these empty lots is, and trying to do something so our people can have something to see. Yeah. See, because when you got the Arabs coming in here, you got the Italians got their spot and the Jews got their spot, but we don't have nothing for our children to look up to us. So when they come in our community, the first thing they doing is looking up to an Arab, because they got something and we ain't got nothing. And plus, we got to learn how to police our own community. Most of us know people around here. We got to talk to our people, because you bring them in, they don't give a damn. The first thing doing, they come in with their guns out, and they're going to blow your brains out. So if we trying to build, and business is warfare, and we trying to build, that's why we need to get on the back, and everybody need to know about Superior Renaissance, because Superior Renaissance doing positive things, trying to uplift our people. We got to put our community together. You understand what I'm saying? This is what Superior Renaissance is doing. Black folks, we trying to do for self-preservation. We come first before we can extend our hands out to everybody else. The Jews take care of themselves. The Italians take care of themselves. Everybody taking care of themselves except us. Soon as we get these positions, the first thing we do is start tap dancing and bojangling. And the first thing we do with the white man and the black behind, first thing we want to do, we want to build big buildings for white folks and make ourselves look good. But what about us? We got to come back to our people in the community. We got to look at ourselves, because when that stuff falls, because it is falling, the fall of America. The Honorable Minister Farrakhan said, America is falling. So Minister Rowland is following that example, that perfect example. He's saying, listen, brother, we got to do something for ourselves. We got to save our people. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Our youth is our future. So what we trying to do in Superior Renaissance, we trying to build here so our youth have something to lean on. Right. Because they don't have nothing now. Right. All they doing is killing each other. As far as the self-defense, yes, we teaching women self-defense, Superior Renaissance, because if you got a pistol and if somebody put the pistol on you, what good is that going to do if you can't reach for your pistol? You got to learn how to disarm. Okay, that's what I'm going to say, because I know my time is up. Thank you.
So, okay, so, oh, we got another question? Okay.
I did.
I got another question.
There you go.
Man, this is beautiful. Both of you guys are saying some magnificent things. I have had many business in this neighborhood, many business, but I've been in this neighborhood for over 50 years. Born and not born, but raised. My question is, the issue that you guys are raising, the question is that, you know, education, guns. I think guns are genociding. No one is talking about the genocidization and demonization of what our culture is.
That's right.
You know, this is our culture. Everybody has their culture. Everybody that come to this country has their culture. But like the platform said, the money is being spent, but the people that we chose to lead us is not letting us know that it is available. So what should we do with that when we don't know? We've been trained by people that we claim that training us, but what about the mama and daddy? Where's the mama and daddy? Which y'all call the elders. Elders are leaders. They're supposed to be leaders. In my time of coming up in this neighborhood, my elders were my leaders. They were my teachers. They was my everything. And I became a businessman, turning out multiple business people in the neighborhood. And I want you guys to help us bring that back, togetherness, because we need role models as males, females also. But let a male lead a male and a female look over a female. Or a female, my opinion, a female carry out the order of a male. That's my opinion. I don't have a problem with my mama being a mama, my dad being a daddy, because I had both of them. But now, today, mama can't live with daddy, and daddy can't live with mama. What is wrong with that, y'all? What is wrong with that?
So that was your question?
My question is that we need, how do I phrase a statement to a question? I'm not well educated, you know, but I want you to know this here. I got personal experience.
Your experience.
I
is your
know what a
expertise.
family's supposed to be like.
Talk about it.
Period. I have a family. And my wife is successful. My kids is successful. I am successful. Roland Muhammad is successful. Everybody is successful in this hood. Player T, successful. When I met him, he was walking down the street. He said,
Talk
do
about
y'all have a job in there? I said, no, we don't have a job. We have an opportunity. An opportunity. We don't give jobs as leaders. And I'm talking to you guys, and you're looking to be my new leader. Now, the question is, are you going to lead me the right way?
Great question. Alana, you want to start to answer that?
Yeah.
DJ, can you grab that mic?
I definitely think that. Yeah, I definitely think that that is my goal, is to lead us in the right way. But also part of that is making sure that this is as collaborative of an experience as possible. I have been asked to run for several years, and I said no for a very long time.
Oh, yeah, people that ask you to run. That says a lot.
And I don't. I've been doing electoral politics professionally for about electoral organizing, electoral politics for about 10 years or so. And I know a lot of politicians, and I have a thorough distaste for the experience of interacting with many of them. And
Newsflash, you're a politician.
And unfortunately, I am here now. But part of that is understanding that. Yeah, part of that is understanding that the difference between what I've seen and who and what I am is my desire to work together with other people. There are a lot of politicians who get in it for themselves, who get into office and make sure that the actions that they take align with their friends. They're using policy and ARPA funds and all sorts of resources that we have at our discretion to make sure that their friends are okay, but they're not really taking care of community because they're not talking to community. They're not talking with community. They are not accessible. They are not responsive. They are not engaging. They are not listening. They are not changing their views, their perspectives, or their tactics to adjust to the time, to the people, and to the needs of what's happening in the community. And as a community organizer, that is my specialty. The two things that I am really, really confident in as an organizer and as a person are program development. So how can I look at a problem and bring together subject matter experts, community members, and folks who have a desire to be creative together so that way we can implement a program that solves that problem, right? And then the other piece, and so part of that is also recognizing that like families are together. My parents have been married for almost 40 years. They just had their anniversary the other day. Shout out to them.
Congratulations.
And the other thing that I'm really confident in as an organizer is coalition building. So how are we bringing people who have similar interests, who have vested interests in whatever the problem is, to like find a solution and not necessarily do so with ego, not do so focusing on the needs of their individual needs or their organizational needs or the needs of their funders, but how are we solving the problem for the people? And that is something that that's work that I've done in the past that I'm really, really proud of. That's work that I know I can recreate now. Having been in the city, with the exception of when I lived in Atlanta during electoral politics during 2020, which was a time. But aside from those 2 years that I lived in Atlanta and did work in Georgia, I have built relationships that extend beyond the work. I have built connections and know people and know organizations and know missions and know goals and all of these things. And these are the people and organizations that I'm accountable to, along with like me being responsive and engaging and articulating and being different from politicians in that way. I think one of the other things that sets me apart from other folks, specifically people who are already in office is that I have accountability outside of elections. A lot of times when we talk about holding politicians accountable, we are talking about we can vote them out in 4 years, but what are we doing in between those 4 years? Because those 4 years that we're in office, these are the 4 years that are changing the lives of the 23,000+ people who live around us, and I am responsible to dozens of organizations. I'm responsible to hundreds of people who know my values, who know what I stand for, who know what I believe in, who know what I would like to see for myself, for my community, for this city. And if I step outside of that, those people are willing to check me when needed. Those are the people who are willing to call me in or call me out if needed, to make sure that I realign myself with the purpose that I stepped into this with.
Before we pause and take a 5-minute break, I'm gonna let Tony respond to that if you have anything to say.
Yeah, so to the young man here that does the self-defense, I don't know how to tap dance. So I don't know how to tap dance, so you don't have to worry about that. To your question, you asked, would I lead you the right way? And the answer is yes, because you know, this for me is about legacy and leaving a legacy and being the best. And if I'm gonna be the council person of Ward 9, it has to be the best. It has to be the best. So yes, I've been leading people the right way my whole life. You know, I always go back to my experience as a personal trainer. I have to make you the best that you can be, even beyond your self-limitations, your self-limits. I have to push you and push you and push you. And so that's one of the things I will do as a council person. You know, I know you guys are gonna come knocking on my door asking me what I'm doing, but I'm gonna turn that back around and ask you what you're doing, because this is an effort. We have to, everybody has to be bringing some type of talent to the table in order for this to work.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break for like 5 minutes, and we're gonna come back with Tony and Alana. So bear with us, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Think of everyone, how everybody doing? Number one, the majority debate, and I love what everybody's saying, but some of the things I want to kind of correct. One of the things is about culture. Culture is an area where it houses your religion, your education, and what you do as a people to survive and maintain and sustain yourself. Now, the Italians got a culture, because when you go up there, you see everything they got to maintain them as a people. The Irish got it. You go to Cam Corner, and you can see everything they got to maintain their culture. Irish, you know, and you go to Tremont. Tremont, you can see everything they got to maintain their culture, right? You go to Asian Plaza, you see the same thing. And you could go down to West 25th in Detroit, and you can see the gay community create their culture to maintain who and what they are. Now, on Superior Avenue, we know our culture. On Superior Avenue from 105 to 125th was the Muslim on the east end with their culture, with their religion, with their food, with their style, with their dress, with their language, you know what I mean, what they believe. On this side, the east end side, or the west end side, was the black nationalists. The black nationalists dominate this side. So you had your nationalistic group, and you had your religious group that incorporated our culture. We've lost that culture. Now we're trying to regain it back. And when you lose your culture, when you lose your culture, you lose your own direction as a people. Yeah. You use the means of which to finance your people, secure your people, and educate your people. Yeah, that's right. And so therefore, without that, people go to hell and they actually become savage. That's right. Yeah. Now the next thing is that one other point I want to mention about, you talk about we need policemen. We don't need policemen. We don't need them. Now what they got, they call it a consent decree. We don't need them. Right? And the consent decree is when two people have two disagreements, right? Right? And when you have a husband and wife having two disagreements, then the husband go to counseling and the husband go to counseling separately. They can go together, they go separately. And the thing with the police in the community is the police get the counseling and the community doesn't. Yeah, the police get the training in addition to money, but the community doesn't get it. So if the police get all the training and then you get nothing, when the police shows up again, he has to deal with your savagery, but it's worth. So therefore, all the training that he gets, he can't apply that. So So he had to go back in the same manner in which you respond to him. So if he was trained earlier before training, and he operated in that way, and that new process they give him, he cannot use that at all.
Not in
He
our
has to do it.
hood.
So therefore,
Not in
here
our
comes the
hood.
group force
For
again.
real.
Because even in the ACLU, they'll give you a pamphlet on telling you how you understand to deal with the police, but the police confront you, right? So the idea is if I'm going to train people, then I need community organizers to train people. I need educators to come in the community to train people.
Yeah.
And I need religion pastors to come in and train. If the educators, community organizers haven't trained people how to behave, then that's not going to solve, that's not going to help anything.
None at all.
The police going to respond the same way all the time, because now he feels he's dealing with a greater savage.
Yeah.
All right, the next thing is that as a politician, and if you know anything about the 60s and 70s, when black people got in office, when black people became mayor, right, like Atlanta, Detroit, right, all the different places, their concern was helping black people. Well, if you're going to help black people, you got to be in the mind of black people.
That's right.
That's
You
right.
gotta be. You
You
gotta
can't
be
help
in
black
control.
people unless
For
they're in
real.
mind. And when you go into office as a person, you go into office with the mind of people, not with your mind trying to collaborate and do all kind of dumb stuff.
right.
You got to go and you got to stand up for your people. And in order to do that, you got to think outside the box.
Tell the
You always
truth,
trying to be in
tell
the
the
box,
truth.
to trying
That's right.
to, you know, collaborate and deal with people who are already in power, who are going to help a hand.
Yeah.
And if they deal with you, they're going to give you some crumbs. My question is that those men made black men prominent, and they made black men millionaires in the community. Now, Kevin Conwell has been in office 24 years. What black man that he made that can be respected and honored in the community as a black businessman?
No.
What have he done in making a black man a millionaire in the community? So yeah, but the Arabs, they are millionaires, right? Save a lot. All these, they are millionaires. Foreman Mills, millionaire. All these people that come in our community, they are millionaires, but we are not millionaires. Why do you know they are millionaires? Because they make money. They go build on the west side, right? Right? They build on the west side. Then they come back in the community and buy our property and tell us to get off our property. So we make a millionaire as a result of that. So the question is, what are you going to do when you get in office to make us a highly respected businessman and make us a highly respected millionaire? Because the most important person in the community is the businessman. So how are you going to respond to that?
Well, to answer your question, well, one of the problems is when most people to get into office, they fall into greed, and my grandmother taught me a long time ago. She said, Tony, greed leads to destruction, and she also told me to watch everybody around you. Watch everybody around you and see what their outcome is, because your outcome is going to be the same. And so she also taught me about integrity. So, you know, I bring integrity to this job. I'm a businessman. I like to make money, but I also like to see people win. You know, we all can win. There's room for all of us to win. So the same energy that I would give to myself and put into my own business is the same energy that I'm going to put into this community and seeing to it that everybody can win. So, you know, like I said, as a personal trainer, if you come to me and say, Tony, I need your help, you got to be ready to put the work in, because it's going to be work. But as long as you're ready to put the work in, we can make this happen. So I promise, because, you know, you can judge me 4 years, 8 years from now. I'm going to do my job, and I'm going to help my community win. If you win, I win. And just imagine, I don't have just political aspirations just to be the city councilman for Ward 9. I want to do that for a while, but I want a promotion. One day I want to be the mayor, you know, but I'm going to always take care of home. So just know that.
I want to thank Alana Bell and Tony Evans Jr. for joining us. I hope that this discussion has led you to a greater understanding of who you'd like to vote for as far as Cleveland City Council Ward 9. Unfortunately, we didn't get to run through all the topics because of the time constraints. Hopefully, we can do this again. Those who want to know more about Tony just came on the show last night. You can go to playertshow.com and check out the interview. Elena's going to be coming on at a later date to be determined. So I want to thank everybody for showing up, coming out. I want to thank everybody for tuning in around the ward, around the city. We appreciate y'all. Player T, that's me, Hollywood in the Hood.